party started. That's my face. Same weight as always. Claiborne County. 36.25% THC. We'll wait for more people to show up, more folks to hang out with us before we really get party started. Let's go ahead and just put this right off to the side here. Hello everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. Andrew Silva and Salvia92 and Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie. And Dylan Connerty. What's going on? Hawaiianesis. Not too much. How are you, man? Oh, my shirt. That's why. So I've got my Volcanoe bag ready. Let's start off everything here with a nice little dab to get things going. Nice short little live stream tonight, guys. Just wanted to pop in, say hello, see how everyone's doing. Working on some new reviews that will be out next week. I should have the Select out review out by next week. Should have a Dr. Norm's review out sometime this week. So new stuff is happening. Getting the dab rolling. People really like the dabs more than pretty much anything else. They want to see it do these. So I have some strawberry cheesecake is the strain today. 77% TH sizzle. Down the hatch. Hello, welcome. A little bit left there. Cool. Thank you for being patient, everybody. I'm back here. Okay, let's get caught up on some chat. Eric, welcome. Eric says, I'm smoking a 2-gram Russian cream backwood with a King Louis strain. That sounds pretty good, man. Is that a 2-gram cart? I've never seen them. I don't think I've seen 2 grams before. I've seen 1.5s. No, I've seen 2 grams. I've never actually tried anything more than the gram myself, but I'm curious how that is going for you, Eric. And then we got Mom Chef Life. Hello, Mom Chef says, whoop, whoop, smoke time. Yes, Mom Chef, it is. And I just finished my, what did I say, strawberry cheesecake dab. And then I've got my GMO, the nicest weed I've ever had, in here, in my Volcanoe bag, 36.25% THC. More accusations of being Hawaiian Jesus. I'm okay with that. Excuse me. No problems being the Hawaiian Jesus. Okay. And then we got Andrew who says, what's the best cartridge you have ever smoked? Good question, Andrew. The best cartridge I've ever smoked is a pod, and that pod is a plug play pod. All plug play is my favorite weed vapes I've ever done. Pretty much my favorite sort of non-edible weed experience, I would say, out there is the plug play system. In terms of like traditional 510 carts, I haven't seen them around in a while. I hope they still exist because this was about as good of a cart as I've ever had, was the Orchid Essentials several years ago. Big fat tanks, like short 1 gram, very weird looking cartridges, 510 cartridges, much different than most. Haven't seen them in a while, but they were my favorite of the 510s I've ever done. Raul, welcome Raul, says, what's up? How long have you been streaming for? Well, this evening only about 5 minutes. I've been streaming pretty regularly for about the past 2.5 weeks or so, though. Christopher, welcome back. Christopher, glad you could join us. Says, what's up, Wheats? How often do you clean your Volcanoe? Christopher, I don't really clean. It doesn't require a lot of cleaning the actual Volcanoe itself. The only thing that really requires a lot of cleaning is the oven, and I clean that basically every time I refill it. It doesn't take a lot of work. It's just basically just like using a little paintbrush they give you. Give it like a little camel hair paintbrush, and you sort of just brush out the weed from the oven, the filling chamber, and you're good to go. As for more maintenance, really, I hope it doesn't require any. I really haven't given it anything, and it's lasted almost 5 years now. So either I'm doing something terribly wrong and I'm about to have an apocalyptic failure, or I'm good to go. Salvia92 says, do you like raw garden cartridges? Yes, I do. Yes, I do, Salvia. As I've said before, one of the most popular questions I get is about raw gardens. People love knowing about raw gardens. It's got to be one of the most popular brands, at least in this area, just from the amount of questions I get about them. But I have no problem recommending them. They are pretty great quality, and they're usually quite affordable. And those two things I like a lot, and always like recommending things that fit both of those criteria. Christopher says, so is Biden anti-weed? There seems to be no other conclusion to draw other than he is just really backwards in that regard. It's incredibly disappointing. Yeah, incredibly disappointing, his stance on weed, but, well, your alternative is Bill Barr. So, you know, I don't know. It is far from ideal, but, he's gonna, you know, he's Biden, he's going senile, he doesn't know what he's doing. You're just gonna hope that he puts somebody in charge of the DEA, that is, has a more nuanced view about weed than he does, and makes some different decisions. Because, as Joe Biden's already said, you know, he's basically going to run everything on autopilot. He's going to hire the qualified dudes to do everything, and then he's just going to sit back and let his senile, addled brain slowly turn more into old man mush, which is probably for the best. Okay, so, let's catch up here on chat. Bryce says, hey, how's it going? Smoking on some Slurricane right now. Going well, Bryce. Thanks for joining us again, man. I hope you're enjoying that Slurricane. And Eric says he had rolled a 2-grammer. That is quite the joint, my friend. That is quite the joint. I'm hoping you're enjoying that. I don't think I've ever had more than a 1-gram joint, which is those big, usually the big fat ones that come as pre-rolls. But a 2-gram, that's going somewhere. I've never actually done one of those like incredibly ostentatious blunts or joints before. You know, those things that you see at weed festivals where people, the baby's arms, if you will. Never done one. I have don't have anything against them. I have kind of terrible lungs, and I cough a lot, so I think it might be wasteful. But if somebody were offering it to me, I would gladly try it. Just never done one. Cameron Schoenfish. Cameron says, have you tried Sesh Carts by Kraft? The 1,000 milligram distillate ones. I have not, Cameron, but I will be on the lookout. Where'd you get them from, Cameron, just to give me an idea of where to look? Bryce says, have you seen the strain called Orange Creamsicle? It's some of the best stuff I have ever smoked. Yes, Bryce, I have even done orange creamsicle before. It's pretty popular strain. The orange creamsicle or orange dreamsicle. I like it a lot myself, although it's one of those things where I've tried orange creamsicles from different places and, they don't taste anything similar. But if you've got a good source for your orange creamsicle, keep up with it, man. I'm sure, that's the best thing. Just find your guy and keep up with it. Andrew Silva says, what's the most overrated weed brand in your opinion? Well, I guess it really depends on the sort of product line. Thankfully, I wouldn't say, Andrew, I have a most overrated brand, because brands don't really escalate much. There were some very big cart brands for a while, but after the black market popcorn lung fiasco, they have sort of receded, and now it's very much more all these things are becoming increasingly commodified and less brand centric, it seems to me, and people are now, and largely probably having to do a lot with the fact that you can only really have a brand in one state, and then you can't protect that brand in any real kind of business sense. So it just seems like weed is becoming increasingly more of just a total commodity, and it's going to be less about fancy brands and just who can get you the best prices. That's only true if these market forces continue in that direction. Once things become, once interstate commerce becomes more widely spread with weed, and then once brands can get brand protections, I assume you'll start seeing, some real sort of consolidation, and then, some dumb, you'll have your, what's a fancy, I don't know, cookie brand that's over expensive, something, you get those sort of brands named only, or known only for their names, and you pay for the name, but we're a ways from there. We were closer, but I think we're getting away from there just because people are starting to come to the realization that's like, why go through the trouble of building this big, incredible, well-recognized brand when anybody can just hijack it themselves? I don't know. And that's purely theoretical. I don't know that for sure, but that is that's what I assume is going on. Sorry, long answer to that question. Leno Nieves the third says, and I'm sorry if I butchered that, what is your favorite strain to smoke? Mostly, if I push came to shove, I would choose your heavier indicas, your OGs, those kind of things. But really, I go with whatever has the highest THC percentage. Chubsy, do Rock Garden's cartridges taste like actual live resin? I've had live resin dabs, but never tried the form of a cartridge. Good question, Chubsy. I would say not really. I find dabs to be a wholly very different experience than cartridges or pods in all kinds of ways. I assume a lot of it has to comes from the heating element and then the quantity consumed at once, but they are very different. But Rock Gardens, I can tell you, they taste great, especially if you're very much into your your concentrates without artificial terpenes or added terpenes. Carson, welcome, Carson. And Carson says, hopefully Bernie steers him right. Let us hope, Carson, let us hope. That is my suspicion. It really does seem like Biden. Let me just be very frank and honest. I don't think Biden's going to be the president. I don't think there's a chance in hell. As you know, that is not a suggestion that that's not what I want. Not at all. I just unfortunately don't think it's going to be the case. But let's bracket that, put that aside. If Biden were to become president, I do think he is being pretty sincere when he says, like, he might be a one and done kind of guy. It is pretty clear Biden is not running with a full deck right now, to mix a metaphor. So, I could very easily imagine Biden. I can very easily imagine them picking their vice president right now, thinking who would be very good to run against Republicans 4 years from now, and that's where what the primary motivation for their running mate is, other than who can help beat Donald Trump. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Trip says, welcome back. Trip says, do you have any idea how to prevent the black market cartridges? Yes, I do, Trip. I have a couple of very good, easy suggestions. Number one is allow the easiest thing is just allow legalize weed federally, and then it's done. There's no reason for black market cartridges to exist. There's not, the only reason the market exists is because of its illicit nature. If there were no restrictions upon moving or selling the product, we wouldn't have these things. If brands could sue other companies for using their name and their images and their likeness, that would solve that problem. Until that point, it's all going to come down to the states, and then the states, it just seems like the best way to prevent it is to crack down on black markets, which is really not ideal to begin with. It seems like the answer is going to have to come federally. And then the answer is very simple. It's make it federally legal, and then barring that, if you're not going to go that far, at least allow you to sell across state lines and allow you to trademark weed companies. So, very easy but impossible, will never be implemented suggestions. Matthew Gower. Hello, Matthew says, baby's arm, laughing my ass off. I wish I had coined that term myself, but I'm pretty sure that is what people refer to those massive, comically oversized blunts as. Bryce Oliverson says, do you know the brand Rhythm? Have you tried anything from them? No, I have not. What kind of products do they sell, Bryce? And Salvia says, what raw garden strains have you tried, and what is your favorite? Salvia, I've tried several. I've had raw gardens, cartridges. I think I've had probably 4 cartridges from them, but mostly I do concentrates from them. And then really, I honestly, to be super honest, Salvia, I just go with the rubric of THC to price ratio, as I mentioned. And I always pick like the whatever I can get for the best price with the highest THC. So I, Salvia, I'm not a huge strain person. They don't have as sort of. I don't notice the effects as much as others do in terms of being very specific about feelings. It doesn't sort of manifest that way in me. So for me, it's really just comes down to a value proposition, and that's what has the most THC. Bryce with the joke says, how can you tell a blind man is at a nude beach? It's not hard. Because presumably if the man could see, he would see naked people and would be erect. I do like, actually, Bryce, that joke is not, it is not necessarily picking one gender or the other. The dude could very well be just as aroused by looking at naked men as at naked ladies. So, unless the man is asexual, then you assume your metric would be totally useless. Do asexual people, asexual people still must get sexually aroused at some points, right? Like, they still have the physiological sensations of arousal and shit. I don't know, actually. I've never known an asexual person, or at least nobody's ever told me that they were asexual. But yeah, it's there's several things I just fundamentally do not know, which is unfortunate. Christopher says, dabs are the crack cocaine of marijuana. I love them and gave up everything else. Major tolerance thumper. Had to quit. That is very true, Christopher. There's so many things about dabs that are a little weird. The crack cocaine metaphor, while a little over-exaggerated, the way in which you have to ingest dabs using a blowtorch and a nail or a banger or whatever, it just looks bad. We're conditioned to think of those things as for hard, quote-unquote, drug use, and you can just see how people would have this very negative perception in their mind, you know, and then you do pair it with the fact that it is the, you know, easiest way to get a large amount of THC quickly into your system. So a lot of people who haven't done a lot of weed do a dab for the first time and ended up, you know, greening out and going to the hospital. So it's easy to see how they got their bad reputation. Kyle Stapleton, welcome back. Kyle says, what's up, brother? How's your evening going? My evening's going quite well, Kyle. Thanks for asking, man. How about yours? Andrew says, what are some less obvious benefits of legalizing weed federally? Less obvious? Ooh, what a weird and interesting question. I like that. What are the sort of less obvious? Okay, I guess it depends on what you mean as obvious or not, and how far on knock-on effects do you want me to go? Like, what, you know, some of the effects of federally legalizing weed would be like, well, I'm not even going to get into the idea of arrests and, you know, nonviolent offenders in our jails that are filled up with nonviolent drug offenders. It's actually not that true. Not that is a reason to suggest that our prisons should not be less full than they are. Not at all. I forgot where I was going with that whole thing. Holy shit. Oh, a less obvious benefits of legalizing weed federally. So, well, I mean, in addition to just like not having to house, you know, people who got caught smoking weed in Washington, D.C. or at a fucking, you know, national park or whatever, well, then you have all those less prison guards that you need to hire. You have all those less parole officers that you need to hire, and then you can redistribute those benefits and funds to, you know, maybe drug prevention measures or maybe anti-recidivism measures, all kinds of things. None of those things would ever happen, but, you know, it's fun to think about. Eric says, did I hear the word blunts? I believe you did, Eric. We were talking about baby's arms. And then Daniel popping in with do you like the Papa Select water hash? I'm not sure if I've had it, Daniel. Maybe send me a link. I'll take a look at it. And then Bryce lets me know that Rhythm sells the disposable concentrate carts, and they are pretty good company. I will be on the lookout, man. Thank you, Bryce. And Salvia still deliberating. Well, let me throw it to the chat here, Salvia. See if anybody has a particular recommendation for you about the Raw Garden strain. Luis says, my PAX pod is burning on one wick, but the other side is half full. Is this normal? I do see that happen, Luis. It shouldn't really affect the taste or anything, but it's pretty easy to get. I mean, it's permeable between the two, and if you kind of just like have it inverted, it should even back out. Maybe you had it inverted to start with, and it kind of all went into one side or the other. I see it happen, and then once you start also hitting it, the oil starts to get, God damn it, more or less viscous, whatever the fuck. I can't. It's just, I cannot ever remember which way viscous is supposed to go. It's one of those it's mind-boggling to me how my brain fucks up on the word viscous, but you get the idea. So then the oil starts to become more water-like and will sort of equalize on both sides when you start using it, I think. Matthew, with the optimistic guess that legalization is sometime in the not too distant 2056. Oh, Matthew, that's such an optimistic, wonderful. I really, really like your perspective there. It's so comforting to think that we'll still all be alive in 2056. Bryce says, what is my favorite stoner movie? Oh my God. Okay, Bryce, good question. Great question. Do you mean what is my favorite movie to watch on weed, or what is my favorite traditional stoner movie? If it's like, what is my favorite traditional stoner movie? Probably gonna have to be Harold and Kumar. If it's favorite movie to watch on weed that's nominally a stoner movie, it would be Walk Hard. Henry says, have you ever done DMT? I don't know. I don't think so. I'd love to. I think it's a very cool substance. Trying to think. I've done LSD several times and MDMA once. And the sort of more hallucinogenic properties of those did not really take effect with me. And that's another reason to really want to try some good DMT, is because, you know, it is supposed to be, even though quite short, it is supposed to be as potent as, you know, any hallucinogenic you would want to take could be. So I want to see if it can get me to that level. I've always been interested in hallucinogenics, sort of for their therapeutic purposes, since I heard about the studies done in the 60s back on an episode of Radio Lab in like 2011 or whatever. I've been fascinated with them. And, you know, just every year the sort of body of knowledge about how good and how beneficial hallucinogenics can be as therapeutics has increased. And then last year I read Michael Pollan's new book, How to Change Your Mind, which is all about hallucinogenics, and it is such a wonderful piece of writing, such a incredibly, I guess it's mostly a journalistic sort of volume. It's Michael Pollan, the author, the food writer, the, I guess, professor of, what is he a professor of? I can't remember. Anyways, yeah, hallucinogenics. Love to do them. Love to try DMT. I am suspect whether or not that they will have any pronounced effect on me or not. The only drug that I've ever done that has put me in a state that I would describe as truly altered, like where I feel like I could have, I mean, the first couple several times, 2 or 3 times I smoked weed, it was very strong, and I was in no shape to do a lot of things, but I never felt, I don't know, truly like I didn't have a grasp on what was happening around me. The only time I've ever had that experience, it wasn't ego death. I still was very aware that I was in a time and space, but the sort of details of that time and space around me were hazy. Was doing a therapeutic dose of ketamine. I did the like the actual therapeutic ketamine sessions where you do like 3 sessions over several weeks. I'm not sure if it would have had any sort of clinical benefit, but it was a experience that I certainly cherished. Would love to do again. It's very difficult to make happen, though, unfortunately. Daniel says, also, what's your opinion on these public assassinations? Are you talking about the judge's child and husband? I'm not exactly sure what public assassinations, but if those are what you're referring to, they're awful. There was all kinds of weird, mysterious hits this weekend. Those 3 poor kids in Florida that were brutally murdered at a lake. And then, yeah. The world, man. And Bryce says, do you have any opinion on what's going on with Kanye right now? He needs some serious help. And then he asked, do I listen to rap at all? And can I please say Henry has low T? I'm sorry, Henry, if that is not true, or if that is something that you are sensitive about. Sorry for saying that, but nothing wrong with having a little low T, man. Whether you want to get some boosters or less testosterone, it's all you. Do I have any opinion on what's going on with Kanye right now? Not really. The reason being is because he wants people to have an opinion on what he's doing right now, and I have lived, however old I am, I can't remember, that many years blissfully not caring about Kanye West's exploits, and I anticipate having that many more. I just don't give a shit about Kanye West. I don't give a shit about what Kanye West says and does. Never have, never will. He was right. George W. Bush didn't care about black people. But other than that, he seems like a self-aggrandizing, horrible piece of shit. And here I am being a hypocrite because I'm giving him attention right now. But largely, Kanye, I don't actually think the dude's probably not actually mentally ill. He's probably just very savvy. And nothing makes money like controversy. And with that, I am going to go ahead and bounce. It's going to be a short stream tonight. Got some stuff to take care of. But I will be back tomorrow for an earlier stream than this. And I will post on Twitter sometime tomorrow to let you know. And Henry has low T again. And I apologize again if that is not something Henry wants to hear. Until then, goodbye, everybody. Take care. See you soon.